The Zodiac Killer is a mystery built as much out of messages as the murders. Zodiac is the alias used by an unidentified offender who attacked people in Northern California in the late 1960s, then escalated the terror by taunting police and the media with letters, threats, and cryptograms. The reason this one never fades is simple. The killer's identity is still unproven. The correspondence created a public persona that feels weirdly present, and every few years a new breakthrough claim appears, yet nothing lands as conclusive. Officially, overviews emphasize a narrow core: 5 confirmed murders and 2 confirmed survivors, across 4 major attacks in 1968 and 1969. The Zodiac also claimed higher totals and letters, but those claims are exactly that, claims, and the gap between what was said and what can be proven is one of the case's permanent fault lines. The first canonical attack happened on December 20th, 1968, on Lake Herman Road, near Benicia. Teenagers Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were shot. It's often treated as the beginning of the Zodiac pattern, even though at the time it was simply a brutal double murder with no brand attached. The second core attack came on July 4th, 1969, at Blue Rock Springs in Vallejo. Darlene Ferrin was killed, and Michael Mageau survived. This is where the case begins to transform from a series of crimes into a public spectacle. Because after the shooting, a caller phoned the Vallejo Police Department claiming responsibility, not only for Blue Rock Springs, but also for the earlier Lake Herman Road murders. That kind of direct, performative contact is the seed of the Zodiac killings. The sense that the offender wasn't just evading capture, but actively trying to control the narrative. The third major incident is September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell were attacked by a figure wearing a hooded costume marked with a crossed circle symbol. This time, the weapon was a knife. Shepard later died. Hartnell survived. In the aftermath, the attacker's signature behavior hardened into something almost theatrical. The crossed circle emblem and the attack details were written on Hartnell's car door, and a call was made from a Napa payphone reporting the crime. Then came the most famous of the 4, October 11th, 1969, in Presidio Heights, San Francisco. Taxi driver Paul Stein was shot. A piece of Stein's shirt was taken and later mailed to the press as proof, turning physical evidence into a kind of calling card. Presidio Heights also produced one of the case's strongest near-miss moments. Witnesses helped create a suspect sketch, but the police broadcast initially described the suspect as black. Later reporting and summaries emphasized that officers then reportedly passed a white man who matched the later description. Whether that mistake cost the best chance to catch the Zodiac in the moment is impossible to prove, but is a detail that keeps the case feeling like it slipped away by inches. After the attacks, the Zodiac identity was cemented through letters. On July 31st, 1969, letters were sent demanding publication of a cipher and threatening more killings. The writer claimed the cipher contained his identity, misspelling and all. The correspondence repeatedly used the crossed circle symbol and the phrasing that became inseparable from the legend. This is the Zodiac speaking. Whatever the true author's identity, the letters created a recognizable villain, and the media amplification did the rest. One of the most chilling examples is the October 13th, 1969 letter, where the writer claimed, "I am the murderer of the taxi driver," and included a blood-stained piece of Paul Stein's shirt. The same communication also threatened schoolchildren, specifically raising the specter of attacks involving a school bus. It's hard to overstate what that did to public fear. It widened the imagined target from couples in isolated places to children in broad daylight. And then there are the ciphers, the parallel mystery engine running alongside the homicide investigation. The Zodiac ciphers come in a small set with famous names: Z408, Z340, and shorter ones like Z13 and Z32. Some were cracked, some weren't, and that uneven record is part of why Cipher Solved headlines keep returning. Z340 is the headline case. Mailed in November 1969, it stayed unsolved for decades until December 2020, when a team including David Orenshack, Sam Blake, and Jan van Eyck announced a solution, and the FBI confirmed it. But even then, the key frustration remained. Cracking Z340 did not identify the killer. It was another moment of progress that stopped short of the only answer most people want. Meanwhile, the shortest ciphers, like the 13-character "My Name Is" cipher included in an April 20, 1970 letter, remain a problem. As cryptology discussions point out, short ciphers can be especially hard to validate because they can generate multiple plausible solutions, and it's difficult to prove any single one is correct. In other words, even if someone produces an answer that looks convincing, it may not be provably real. On the investigative side, the Zodiac case also illustrates why some mysteries resist closure even when they generate a lot of evidence. These crimes cut across multiple jurisdictions: Benicia, Vallejo, Napa County, San Francisco, which complicates how leads and physical evidence get coordinated, especially over decades. There were witness descriptions and fingerprints discussed in overviews, but nothing that led to an arrest. And the age of the case creates additional problems: evidence preservation, contamination, and the limits of what can be recovered from old materials. DNA has been both a hope and a trap. In 2002, CNN reported that a partial DNA sample taken from under a stamp on a Zodiac letter did not match Arthur Lee Allen, the most famous historical suspect. That didn't solve the case, but it did undercut one of the most widely repeated suspect narratives. In 2018, reporting described Vallejo police sending 2 envelopes for advanced DNA analysis, aiming for a fuller profile that could potentially be used with genealogy-style searching, similar to the Golden State Killer investigation. But even that has a built-in complication investigators openly considered. If someone else licked stamps or envelope flaps, whether as an accomplice, a third party, or even as a mundane favor, then the DNA could belong to an uninvolved letter licker, not the killer. It's a perfect Zodiac problem. Even your best new tool might point at the wrong person. And that leads into the modern suspect cycle. Arthur Lee Allen remains the best-known candidate in public memory, but he was never charged and died in 1992. More recently, The Guardian covered author Jarrett Kobek's argument for another suspect, Paul Doerr, emphasizing that the case for Doerr is presented as circumstantial. That framing matters because the Zodiac story consistently blurs the time between plausible theory and provable identification, and those are not the same thing. Culturally, this is why Zodiac stays surface-tier famous. It shows up everywhere, in film and TV, in killer threatening the public, imagery associated with things like Dirty Harry, and even in strange media attempts to capitalize on the notoriety, like the 1971 film The Zodiac Killer, reportedly produced partly to lure the real Zodiac into a theater and compare handwriting. The name has even drifted into internet-era shorthand, like the Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer meme, which only works because the public instantly recognizes what the Zodiac implies. The Zodiac Killer is simple in the most haunting way. A small, officially confirmed set of attacks, a long trail of authenticated taunts, periodic technical progress like cipher solutions, and still no definitive name behind the symbol.